I don't like the move, but I also understand why he had to do it.
Magnitude of this decision was and is huge. So we felt like, and it was very important that we get this right.
To be honest with you, I was embarrassed for the sport. I was embarrassed for the sport that I've been in for 50 years.
You know, you never know when you're just going to have an off weekend.
I've kind of gotten the ability to have the platform that I want, and it is my platform, and I can speak to whatever I feel like talking about.
We were in the mix, and it makes it a lot more fun when you're in the mix than you are just, struggling and trying to figure out what direction to go.
Yeah, it's tough, and sorry for being bouncy the roads here.
It's like if you have, the all-you-can-eat buffet every single day of the week, people are going to get tired of it, right? So if it's a special thing, I think people get more excited for it.
Hi, Bo!
Raise your hand up so she can see it. There you go.
Truthfully, even as a company, I think it was, very head-scratching why at the beginning all four of us just went instantly straight to the back. We just really struggled.
Welcome on to the Backstretch. I'm News 5's Heather Williams, and I don't know if we'll have anything to talk about this week on the Backstretch. NASCAR comes right back from its 2-week break and turns it on full throttle, 300 miles an hour right out of the gate. What a wild finish in Richmond. I'll be honest with you, I wasn't feeling that great this weekend. I didn't watch the whole race. I did wake up in time to see the final few laps and went through a range of about 75 emotions watching that race, from, oh, Austin Dillon's going to run away with this race, to, oh my gosh, someone else may have a chance, to Joey Logano's going to run away with this race, to, oh no, he's wrecked. Austin wrecked him. Danny's going to win this race. Oh no, Austin wrecked him too. Wild, all in the space of like 10 minutes. It was really compelling television. It gave a lot of debate to all the talk shows this week in the NASCAR community, and a precedent-setting ruling from NASCAR, which we're going to talk about with Chris, of course. I'm also going to talk about that in my final thought, so stick around for that. Got a great guest this week, Alex Bowman, driver of the number 48 for Hendrick Motorsports. Got a chance to ask Alex before the ruling came down about the events that happened at Richmond this week. He's a guy that's not generally in the position to have to win to get in. He's usually a point myself in pretty comfortably or get a win here and there kind of guy, but he was in this position last year because of injury. So he can kind of relate to what's going on with Austin Dillon in that moment. And so I asked him several questions about it. Great answers, great thoughtful feedback on the position that Austin was in, the decision he made, and whether or not Alex would do the same if he had that moment. So, with plenty to talk about, let's get going.
Joining us now is our crew chief, Chris Carrier, who is also the crew chief of the number 75 Food Country Truck in the Craftsman Truck Series. And Chris, it's a good thing there's really not anything to talk about this weekend. Oh yeah, wait a minute. Austin Dillon won at all costs at Richmond, but his victory did end up having a price after all. He gets to keep the win, but he's stripped of his playoff eligibility. From win and 25 bonus driver's points and owner points docked from his tally for the year. Chris, before we talk about the punishment, which I kind of muddled my way through there, what are your thoughts on wrecking two cars to get the win?
I don't like it. Really, to be honest with you, Heather, I never have, I don't now, I never will. I'll put an asterisk beside this and say, if the guy that's in front of you raced you in a way that is unethical, that if he banged you up, knocked you out of the way, drove you in, well, it's not a good way to say this, but you know what I'm talking about, drove you in a way that's not really acceptable, and you owe him one, that's a little bit different. To me, in my mind, it's a little bit different. It's like a boxer. If a two-boxer heavyweight match for the title or whatever, and if one guy, takes out a low blow or bites you on the ear or something like that, does something dirty, then to me, gloves are off. But now, to just go in there and take a guy out, wreck him for no reason when he hasn't done anything to provoke you, is the word I'll use. I don't care who's driving it. I don't care who's driving the number 3 or who else. It's not, to me, what I was raised on and saw as what real racing is. It's not that. And it's just, Greg Biffle I saw a little, I guess it was a podcast or something with Greg Biffle, just a little quip, and they asked him, and he was very, very politically correct about it. He was not throwing darts at anybody. But he made a statement that made a lot of sense. He said, it doesn't take any ability or talent to just plain old wreck somebody.
Well, the thing is that Austin had the best car, right?
He had the best car.
He could have won that race on his own merit. He had a terrible restart, which was his fault.
Yep.
And then he was frustrated, granted, and went out and just flat out wrecked people. Is it against the rules? It absolutely is not. There was nothing in the rules that says you can't. But there is a difference between what is against the rules and what is moral. And how you put your head on the pillow and sleep every night.
And to me, if that were me in either camp, I'll be honest with you, Heather. When I saw it, and I knew it, and I said, "Oh boy, this is really going to happen." And I saw it, and he wrecked him, and then he got to 11 when he came back across. Whether that was intentional or not, I'm not sure, but sure looked like it. I just had this terrible feeling, and to be honest with you, I was embarrassed for the sport. I was embarrassed for the sport that I've been in for 50 years, and had the pleasure and the privilege of watching what I think is the best drivers we've had ever, and getting to see those guys race. And they kind of wrote the book of the laws of racing, like the understood agreement, the laws, the behind, everybody knows what's okay and what's not okay. And what little respect I had for Austin Dillon just went to zero. And I really lost a lot of respect for his team. And I don't know who all was involved, whatever. I saw they suspended the spotter for 3 races and so on and so forth. I don't know. I just thought it was a cruddy moment. I don't think this is what we're about. I don't think that's what we need to be about. I'll say this, probably make a lot of people mad, but if that's what you go to races for and to watch races, you need to go to a demolition derby. And I like to see the best driver, the best team, the guys that do the best job through the whole race win the race. Now again, if Joey Logano or anybody else roughed him up or drove him in a less than classy way or done something to him, I'd said, have at it. You got to do what you got to do, but not that way, no.
So I will say, if he did it once, he probably would have got away with it. The second driver, I think, was what put it on everybody's radar. I'm going to ask you this next question, and I think I already know the answer, but 25 drivers' points, 25 owners' points. The win doesn't count towards the playoffs. The spotter was suspended for 3 races. Does the punishment fit the crime?
Well, I personally would have rather seen them take the win away, and that would have taken care of the playoff thing. I guess the bad part about that was it wouldn't have given the win to the guy who deserves it. That's the worst part about it. And to me, when you make penalties,
let me ask you this: who deserved it? I mean,
I thought Logano deserved a win.
Right.
I mean, he did everything he had to do. He had a clean restart. Logano did not cause the caution. Now, Austin Dillon had the race won by far.
Right.
He had the best car. He did the best job. He did a great job driving that car. His pit crew put him out first. Okay, they did everything. They clicked. They checked every box. And they were really the best car pretty much throughout the weekend. They were fast right off the truck. Kudos to them. His team deserved this. They really did. But to, get it the way he got it, I mean, to me, we need to somehow make the penalty be painful enough to where not only whoever gets the penalty, but everybody else out there says, well, I ain't gonna do that. No, I'm not gonna do that.
So taking away the playoffs isn't enough? I mean,
think-
that's where the
I think
money is, right?
That's where the money is. I think let me give credit to NASCAR about this. I think they thought this through, and the penalty was very creative. And I'm not going to throw rocks at them. I'm not going to. So, if they were to wave their magic wand now and go back and rerun the race, and it go down to the last 2 laps, and Austin Dillon's back there, and he knows this is what's going to happen, he's probably not going to wreck Joey Logano.
No.
He's probably not going to do it.
No, the only reason he did it was to make the playoffs.
Yeah, and this, in my mind too, having the penalty and now say, okay, that crown is taken kind of off of you, and the big deal you had to do to get in the playoffs, you've been stripped of that. I think it's pretty embarrassing to him and that team. I mean, it's going to be to most people. Right. When they say, wait a minute, now what happened to Richmond? What's going on? And explain, well, the guy got the credit for the win that punches his ticket into the playoffs. They took it away from him, and somebody else is now in the playoffs. So, I don't know. I think probably, again, NASCAR probably did a pretty doggone good job given the set of circumstances. And I think this tells me that they're going to maneuver a little bit and probably edge towards saying, okay, we're going to try to stop these things before they happen. Because, we've had conversations before about drivers who go in and cause wrecks unnecessarily just out of stupidity, lack of using this. And if they would penalize those guys a little bit and say, okay, you're going to pay for this. You wrecked a bunch of cars out there unnecessarily, then you know what? You're going to sit out. And you're going to pay points and fine and money and everything, but you're also going to sit out 1 or maybe more races. That's what hurts. That's what hurts. And I think that you got to have that. Them school kids need to know that if they don't turn in their homework, it's not going to be like, well, you just get an F. And, we don't care. Well, we're also going to call you mom and dad. And also, that football game you're going to play in tomorrow night, don't bother dressing up. Don't bother getting your uniform because you're not playing. That you got to give people. These guys are grown-up kids that make a lot of money, and they're going to drive really fast race cars, and there's a lot of pressure on them. Now, there's a lot of pressure. There's pressure on that team, 3-car to win. You got to put yourself in his shoes and say, okay, what's going to happen here? If I win this race, we're going in the playoffs. Yeah, that's a tough decision, and it's like this. We get to talk about it for days and say this, that, and other. I'd have done this, or I wouldn't have done that, or whatever. He made a decision in a millisecond to say, okay, he's got somebody hollering his ear, wreck him. He knows how important it is. It's just part of the, it's part of what we live in and part of what those drivers live in. But they've got to keep their respect for what's right and wrong.
From what much is given, much is expected. Much is expected of them as NASCAR drivers. So Joey Logano kind of lost on this. Fined $50,000 for his reckless behavior on pit road after the race. Was that fair?
I think probably in the way that NASCAR was looking at it. Now, you and I talked before the show here tonight, and also you got to look at him and say, man, he's pretty mad, and he had a reason to be mad, and he had a reason to be. And as we were talking about, there's really not supposed to be anybody else on pit road till everybody is stopped. I don't know if that was in his brain as he did that. He did a little burnout right there, and yeah, there were people around and this, that, and the other. And I think there's 2 or 3 ways to look at it. I think that if Joey had it to do over with, whether he got fined $50,000 or not, he wouldn't do it.
Right.
Because I would say, knowing Penske Racing and knowing the people there in the management, he probably got a pretty hard talking to and say, no, we don't want this.
Right.
Whether it really should have been endangering anybody or not, whether everybody, even if everybody was behind pit wall, like technically they're supposed to be, I don't think
they don't really like that kind of behavior at Penske.
No, they're too straight-laced. They're too, and I'm not.
There's too many stripes on your shirt right now to work at Penske.
Yeah, there's way too many stripes. Mine should be total solid white with just very simple. but I like this. I mean, they have an image that they want to keep to. I know they discourage their pit crew members that if there's any altercation after the race, they've been told that you leave our pit box, you stay in our pit box. If you leave our pit box, you're not going to work here no more. So that's where they're at, and I respect that. I think more ought to be like that. I don't really care much for the redneck macho that I'll kick your hiney in if you touch our car and all this stuff. I don't know. That doesn't do a lot for me. But I think Joey probably will. I don't think you'll see him do that again. And I don't think whether the penalty or not, I don't discredit NASCAR at all. I think they did that because they felt like they had to. I think they just felt like they had to.
Too many people talked about it.
Too many people talked about it. It's too big a thing right now. And yeah, there was people out there that, I think Austin's wife with a baby with a bow on her head and all this stuff, and they're, oh my God, we're going to, so I just think that, I think that stuff like that, NASCAR has to play the card even though it might be a little over the top, a little bit overkill, they got to play the card that's going to say, we're going to be on that side of it, and we're going to make a penalty. We're going to try to stop all this stuff. We're going to try to make sure that if you do something like this, we're going to make it to where you're going to understand you better not do it again. So I think point well taken. I don't think Joey will sell his house now for $50,000 or Roger won't or anybody. But I think point taken, they'll go along and say, we're not doing that kind of stuff no more. I don't care what the result is. Because winning a race, there'll be tons of races for them to win. They already have, and they will. So, it's all going to play out fine. I think when it shakes out at the end of the year, I think we'll all look back on this and say, okay, that was handled well. It was kind of ugly, not the best thing we've seen. Did make some excitement at the end of a fairly boring race, but they took care. They did a job. They made the mark on all the perpetrators, and I think it'll come. We'll say, okay, job done. Let's go on. I think it will be a steps in the right direction of saying, okay, we're going to control this. We're going to bring this back in. We're going to reel some of this back in, get it back under control, be a little bit more respectable to the people watching our races across the nation, across the world.
NASCAR takes on Michigan this week. Now, how's this track different than other intermediate tracks?
Michigan is like I would call it a super speedway junior. It's like, it's a 2-mile racetrack. Pocono is a 2.5 mile, but there's a lot sharper, different corners where the speeds, you use a lot of brake at Pocono. There's a lot of deceleration in at least 2 of the corners, and a lot of rolling speed out of the throttle. Michigan's mostly keep going, mat that thing down on the bottom, out of the throttle a little bit. There's enough banking and enough grip there to where they use a lot of throttle. And I think it's not Daytona, Talladega, but there is going to be a lot of drafting. There's going to be a lot of aerodynamic advantages one way or another, or disadvantages that will be used by drivers and teams. Michigan's always the place too. You go to Detroit, and the Ford and the Chevrolet people they're the ones that want to stick their chest out after they want to win the pole, they want to win the race, because they think, man, this is a fast racetrack, a lot of horsepower, our bodies, everything for us to brag about on Mondays, help us sell cars. The Toyota people, they want to spoil both of them. So the teams feel this. They know this. Trust me, the teams know this, and they know how much it means to the OEMs, to all 3 of the manufacturers that are involved. There's a lot of pressure on it, and the speeds will be high. I think it'll be great. There'll also be gas mileage, pit strategy will be involved. It will be down to one of those, like, okay, you're in the last 10 laps of the race and you don't know who's going to win. So it's always had a history of that. I think there'll be some good racing there. We'll look, another chance for people going on into the playoffs to say, okay, we're going to try to position ourselves and try to punch our ticket. Who knows? Austin Dillon might punch his.
Alex, thanks for joining us this week. I want to start with this. We are almost to the playoffs. How do you feel like your team is doing as we kind of head to the end of the regular season?
Yeah, I think we've been okay. We've had strings of good races, and then obviously the last two haven't been very good. So things we definitely need to do better, but we're top 10 in points. We've got to win. We're locked in the playoffs. Like we're doing a lot of things right, but still a lot of things that we need to do better to be able to contend for a championship. So we're gaining on it. Not quite where we need to be yet, but we're plugging away at it.
You mentioned the last two races haven't been that great for you. One before the break, one after. Usually you think that something might swing one way or the other, but you kind of really picked up where you left off. Is that surprising, or is it just a coincidence? Like what did the break do for you guys?
Yeah, I mean, I think Indy really, like you look at the finish and it wasn't good. Obviously, we got crashed there, but if we don't get a late caution at Indy, I think we finish somewhere in the top three, top five. So, I think that was pretty just situational the way strategy fell, and we weren't able to overcome it and then got crashed. Richmond, we were just pretty awful. So definitely frustrating because we were really good on Saturday, and just didn't even have what felt like the same race car on Sunday. So frustrating there, but yeah, I mean, I think we've got some good racetracks for us coming up. I don't really feel like the break changed a lot for us as a team. I think we're still in a similar spot, so we just got to keep digging at it and keep getting better.
Since you said you weren't that great at Richmond, you might not be the best person to ask this, but the tires there, did you like the option on the tires at Richmond?
Yeah, I mean, I think it really shows us that we can live in a way softer place on tires, right? Like we can have that really soft tire and make it work. It has obviously more fall off, and I feel like the soft tire should have been the primary tire. I think we have a ways to go on that. So it's cool to see NASCAR and Goodyear trying something. And yeah, it was really interesting. My car was really fast on the red tire on Saturday and really terrible on the red tire on Sunday. So just kind of missed it there for us, but it was cool to have something different.
Were you able to learn though from that in case the tire comes up somewhere else, like they decide to, drop it at Bristol or something? Did you learn something about subs? Because it seems like maybe it was a setup issue.
Yeah, I mean, I think we're always learning, right? Like anything that happens, any race we go to, you're learning. So just, we'll take away what we can. I don't think any of the four of us were very good. Obviously, our day looks pretty bad because we sped on pit road there, that green flag stop in stage 3. But really, my teammates were not great either. So definitely a learning day for us. I feel like the summer Richmond race is typically that way for HMS. That's normally not our best race. So yeah, we'll definitely learn from it.
I wanted to ask you a question about Richmond, but not about the finish so much as decorum. It seems like there's a lot of questions about would you not? Does NASCAR need to look at maybe not the punishment, but how to keep guys from being in a position to have to make that decision of whether to wreck the entire field coming to the checkered? I mean, is there maybe and not I want to say ethics, because ethics isn't really the right word, but a threshold that NASCAR needs to be discussing on how drivers act on the track?
Yeah, for sure. It's tough. Like I think everybody's kind of mad at Austin, but it's really the situation that Austin was placed in that kind of causes that, right? Like he should have won the race if that late caution didn't come out. They obviously had a great weekend, super fast car. He did a great job all day and was going to easily win the race. And then caution comes out, and you take a guy that has zero chance of pointing his way in, right? Like he's buried in the points. And at that point, you have to win. Like for your team, for your sponsors, for everybody, you have to win. And I think a lot of the guys that are saying how much they hate it, like if they were in that situation, probably it might have looked a little different, but it might not have. So, situationally, I think some tweaks could be made. I don't think what happened was okay by any means. And, I think it's just a product of the winning you're in and the cutoff races and all the things that we're doing to manufacture drama. It definitely makes things like that happen for sure.
Yeah, not to put you in a bad situation, but I mean, you said something that was kind of interesting, which is, the people that were mad, they weren't in that situation. I mean, you or Denny or Joey aren't normally in a situation where you have to win. I mean, the only time you've even been close was when you were injured, and that was because you were injured and missed a bunch of races. But generally, you guys run up front, you have a chance to point your way in. It's hard to judge maybe drivers that are in that situation.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think I've been on both sides of it, right? Like we've like really narrowly pointed our way in before, missed it last year. And if I had an opportunity to get aggressive for a win at the end of the regular season last year and didn't take it, I feel like a lot of people around me would have been pretty mad. So yeah, I think those are things that the system has kind of created. And I don't like the move, but I also understand why he had to do it. So be curious to see what the rest of the week holds, right? Like we don't know what's coming, but yeah, it was a lot for sure. I'm glad I wasn't a part of it.
Yeah, I completely understand. I screamed at the TV a lot in the last 5 seconds of that race for sure. Well, turning the page on that and going to this week, obviously I feel like you feel like this is a great opportunity for you guys to get back in the win column this week, correct?
Yeah, definitely. I'm excited to go to Michigan. Obviously, Ally is it's close to home for them, so I'm looking forward to it. It's a cool place. Like I enjoy racing there. We were really fast there last year. Got caught up in a crash on a restart, so bummer there. But typically we run pretty well there. So looking forward to getting there and trying to shake off Richmond.
Is there something that makes that different than other intermediate tracks? Like what's different about Michigan?
Yeah, just that being a half a mile bigger. It's super fast. The repave is super like it has a lot of grip in a lane and a half, and the rest of the track has no grip. So it makes the car really edgy. Like you can't hang the car out very far. You've got to be pretty mindful of sliding the car around too much. And yeah, it's a cool place.
For my final thought today, I want to expand a little bit on the punishment handed down to Austin Dillon. It's actually exactly what I would have done if I was the racing god, is to let him keep the win. You can't really give the win back at this point because of sports betting and all that kind of stuff. All those bets are paid out. It's 5 days later. You just can't do that anymore. So they were never going to take away the win. But taking away the importance of the win, taking away from Austin why he made that move was really the only thing that NASCAR could have done in that moment. Money, don't care. It's not going to be as much money as he makes by making the playoffs. Points, doesn't matter. He's going to be the number 16 seeded driver in the playoffs. If he gets to keep that playoff position, he's not trying to point his way in. So points don't matter, although they did take some points in it. It does hurt a little bit, but not in the grand scheme of things here. The only thing that hurt, the only thing that punishment would be, equal to the crime is to take away the one reason he did it. The one reason he wrecked 2 cars in the final corner of a racetrack. It's because he won that playoff spot. Now he doesn't have to. I get why Austin was so frustrated. I said at the beginning of the podcast, he was going to dominate this race. I mean, not dominate like Martin Truex, put a whooping on the field, but for a car that really struggled this year, they were easily the class of the field all weekend long. Through qualified practice, the whole 9 yards, the 3 car looked really good. And then, 2 knuckleheads running at the back of the pack, bring out the caution with 1 lap and, a corner and a half to go. Sets up a restart. Austin is not great at restarts. I think I saw a stat where he loses the most positions on a restart of anyone in the field. It's not his strong point. He's a mash it and gas it kind of guy. And so I get why he's frustrated, right? Because He didn't have a great restart. Joey Logano, who's one of the better restarters in the business, and Denny Hamlin are surrounding you. Joey gets the jump. He's getting away. And there goes your chance. Your playoff chance is getting away. But you still can't be wrecking everyone. I mean, I heard Denny Hamlin on his podcast. I heard Joey Logano say on Sirius XM radio. I think I heard Tyler Reddick say something similar on Sirius XM. If you allow that, then why wouldn't you just go out and try to wreck your other 3 competitors if you're in the championship for Phoenix? If it's allowed, you want the championship, right? That's the big money. That's the big prize. So why wouldn't you? You could just go ahead and run around and, 26 vision all day. It doesn't matter. So they had to nip that in the bud. They just had to keep that from happening again. Kind of like the Hail Melon. Somebody had to push that limit. Somebody had to dip their toe in that water and see if they could make it work, but it didn't. And so now we're back to, kind of keeping it a little bit more in the decorum area of NASCAR. And I think that's the right decision. Thanks for joining us on the Backstretch. We'll see you next week.